Hey guys, what's up? Dingo Crikey here with another commentary video. This time I'm going to be discussing what may be a major clue towards the creator's identity that was given in Transformers Age of Extinction. So, obviously, we're going to want to take about any information we can get on the creator's identity, as that's probably going to be a big plot point in TF5, and we really weren't given that much on the subject matter in Transformers 4, other than we know it's there. And this bit of evidence was mentioned in a viewer's suggestion in the comment section to one of my other videos, as has been the case with a lot of my recent topics. As always, thanks to those of you who give the topic suggestions. Obviously, between the films, cartoons, previous Transformers media, there's a ton of stuff to talk about, but it does help to get suggestions to kind of narrow things down and know what people are interested in. So thanks, and keep them coming. But as for this one, the topic suggestion comes from a comment by user iSteelRazorblade. The comment reads, "Hey dude, I don't know if you already noticed this or made a video about this, but if you look closely at Lockdown's face, it resembles the Quintesson insignia. Search up Quintesson insignia and Lockdown's face, Age of Extinction. Compare the two. They look very similar. I doubt it's a coincidence because the forehead, the eyes, and mouth fit perfectly into place. I think that this could be potential evidence for whether the creators are the Quintessons or not. Not proof, just an idea." And that's the end of the comment. So, want to give a big thanks to this user for bringing this up all together because, man, it might not be proof, but after reading the comment, I looked up Lockdown's face, along with the insignia, and it took me a moment because a lot of times you'll hear things kind of like this, and you look at them and there's like vague resemblance, but then it just all came at once. Like, these two faces look incredibly similar, like it's almost uncanny. I mean, looking at the insignia or symbol, whatever you want to call it, and comparing it to the face, breaking down the features, for one, just the overall shape of kind of Lockdown's face, not necessarily the head, but the actual face, you can kind of see it as being the same shape as the Quintesson face, having a really big forehead, and then just the way it gets skinnier toward the bottom. It's pretty close in resemblance to what's going on with Lockdown's face. Something else I wanted to point out, at least in my opinion, it always kind of looked like Lockdown's forehead was still part of his face, sort of like we would see with a human, whereas with most Transformers, right above their eyes, it kind of cuts off, and then it's almost like a helmet in structure, and that always was a little bit weird about Lockdown to me. But when you look at this, it might make a little bit more sense if they were deliberately trying to make it look like the Quintesson face, they want to kind of have that skull-like appearance, so that's definitely interesting. But also, around the eyes, that also looks a lot like Lockdown. We have the brow line, even the eyes. Now, Lockdown's eyes can open wide in the movies, but a lot of times they kind of have that half-circle look, at least the way his eyebrow lays on him, which is definitely similar to the symbol. He also has bags under his eyes, very similar as well, and a little bit unusual. The way the would-be nose is structured and positioned, the mouth is probably the least similar feature, but even that, with the rest of the features, I think it does kind of work. But even if you were to push that aside, I mean, the other features really do look similar in this comparison. So there are a number of reasons that this may be significant. I mean, most importantly is that, the Quintessons have been one of the biggest groups speculated to be the Transformers creators. From other continuities, we had the possibility of Primus, we had the possibility of Unicron, but that didn't really seem to make sense with what was said, and just from the little bit of evidence we were given. All signs seem to point towards the Quintessons, at least that seemed to be the case for most people, definitely for me. This, though, seems to be some really telling evidence, because if you want to hint to the fact that, yep, this new villain is working for not just this entity called the Creators, but in fact the Quintessons, who, if you're a more researched Transformers fan, you would obviously know of pretty well, though they haven't had a ton of time in different cartoons and stuff. What better way to do that, if you just want to give sort of a subtle hint than to make the villain's face actually look like the symbol. It's definitely pretty interesting. Then also we have the whole idea that the Quintessons used various bounty hunters in Generation 1. Lockdown being a bounty hunter kind of makes sense. In Age of Extinction, we do see the creator's ships in the beginning have a little bit of a spin to them, which was a big thing with the Quintessons, though the design is very different, so that definitely isn't as much of major evidence, but it's there. And we have seen in previous Transformers media them base Transformers faces off symbols. I don't know that it's ever been done with the Decepticon symbol, but we did have Vector Prime in Transformers Cybertron with his face looking very close in resemblance to the Autobot symbol, though I don't think it's as much as with this guy. This looks really close in my opinion. Now, there are definitely already rebuttals to this theory, as it isn't something new, like I'm only finding out about it recently, but it's actually been on the internet for quite some time when I look back at some posts and stuff like that, but it's still pretty unknown as far as I can tell, so it's definitely worth doing a video on. But anyways, I could see some people saying it's a coincidence. The original poster of this idea didn't believe that to be the case, but if some people wanted to argue that, I guess you could. We can't know for sure until we have some kind of confirmation on it. But if we want to investigate that the best we can look at some photos of some of the other characters' faces, preferably in Age of Extinction, because, they've kind of had a style change, and see how they look in comparison to the Quintesson symbol. Like, how much do they resemble them? Is it maybe just the new stylistic choices, and coincidentally they kind of look like this? So first up, looking at Galvatron, there are some resemblances here, kind of around the nose area, but overall the face shape is kind of different. In the eyes, he looks almost completely different. Maybe on this picture he looks a little bit similar because of the way the eyebrows are coming down, but even that, I think it's a little bit of a stretch to say. The forehead design is also different. We have that upper part of the forehead coming down on the nose, so I definitely think Galvatron is out of the question. Just looking at another one, we have Crosshairs. No, his face looks really nothing like Crosshairs. He has a big forehead, kind of has a rounded shape, maybe around the nose once again, but other than that, it doesn't look very similar. And Drift, I don't think I really have to make a point here. They definitely look very different. So that's just looking at a few, and it definitely doesn't prove that it's not a coincidence, but I think it's more evidence in the favor that it was based on this symbol. We also have the statements from some people, I can't remember if it's Hasbro people worked on the movies, whatever it might be, that Lockdown's face was kind of based off of Mark Ryan, the voice actor. Now, some people might see this as contradicting the Quintesson face theory, as the overall shape of Lockdown's head kind of looks like Mark Ryan's. There definitely are some big differences. Nevertheless, they could have just used influence from both. That definitely could have been the case, and I always took it as they were saying they more took influence in Lockdown's expressions, maybe what Mr. Ryan was kind of doing with his face when he was voicing Lockdown. Stuff like that. They'll use that for CG characters a lot of the time. Like Jar Jar in Star Wars Episode 1, the actor would actually go through the motions and then they'd kind of replicate it with CG. So, maybe that's what they were talking about. I could see either arguments. I don't see them ruling out the possibility, though. I guess we'll have to see, though. We'll have to see if someone reveals it, or if in Transformers 5 the Quintessons are indeed the creators. So, to kind of wrap things up here, do I think this means the Quintessons are indeed the creators, as mentioned by Lockdown and Age of Extinction? I'm going to be biased here because I really, really want it to be the Quintessons. There are a lot of areas in which I like them, kind of switching things up, turning away from G1 as, bringing Sentinel in Dark of the Moon, and they did the whole plot line with him being something original. But the Quintessons are characters that I think could be done very well in the films, would be really cool to see on the big screen, and they can always do different ideas with them. Lockdown was not formally a Quintesson minion in like Generation 1, or even when he did appear, so they can still do new stuff with their characters, and that would be exciting. So I am kind of biased there. I'm not going to say it's proof. Maybe they just picked out the symbol because they thought it would be cool, kind of a nod to some of the fans, but weren't intending it to be taken as, the Quintessons were indeed the creators. I mean, that could be very well the case, but I think I am going to go out on a limb and say, with what evidence we've been given so far, this included what we know of Transformers history, I do think the Quintessons are probably going to be the creator's character, definitely over certain other options such as Primus or Unicron. The only other plausible one I would think would just be some new type of character, but with the talk of the writer's room, a lot of homaging, just better story writing, I definitely think this is very plausible, and I would like to see it. I don't know, maybe say like 70% chance we're going to see the Quintessons. I'll go on and say that. So, hope I'm not wrong. Anyways, that's all I have to say about this topic. You guys can, of course, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Are you sold? Do you think this is enough evidence to say the Quintessons are indeed the creators and we will see them in Transformers 5? Maybe you think it's just a coincidence, or maybe it was an influence for the face design, but it doesn't really mean anything. Or maybe you just don't want to see the Quintessons being the creators so badly that you're going to say no. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, along with any topic suggestions you have for future commentary videos such as this one. Could be on Transformers 5, Robots in Disguise cartoon, Combiner Wars Toyline, whatever it might be. I'm interested in discussing all sorts of Transformers media, and if you guys are interested in discussing it too, you can check out the previous videos on my YouTube channel and through my playlist. You can also follow me on Twitter for more regular updates on Transformers buys, news, Bionicle buys, whatever it might be. Anyways, that's all I have to say for now. Thanks for watching, stay tuned, and have a good one, guys. I'll see you soon.